The first thing that people need to wrap their heads around is the fact that US dollars are borrowed into existence. Today, we trust our governments and we don't trust the people around us. And our governments want that to keep happening. They want chaos because that's how they thrive. They don't understand that their money is being stolen from them because they've been taught to believe their entire lives that the money they have is the money they have. At some point, you're going to see that Bitcoin moves $125,000 in a year, then it moves in a month, in a week, then in a day, and then in an hour. Over time, the price will continue to go up forever. The purchasing power of the dollar will keep falling forever. If you have Bitcoin, you can use it to your own advantage, right? Because what you can do is you can take your Bitcoin, you can use it as...
Rajat, what's up, man?
Things are great. How are you?
I'm good, man. Happy Thursday. Thank you for coming on and doing this. For those of you who do not know, by the way, that are watching this video, Rajat is probably one of the, in my opinion, most sophisticated educational Bitcoin educators and content creators on YouTube. And I wanted to have him on my channel to do a mini podcast together and talk about all things Bitcoin, financial freedom, financial sovereignty. And I couldn't think of anybody better to do that with than Rajat. So Rajat, why don't you just really quickly in like 2 minutes, give my audience a quick background about who you are and how you got into Bitcoin.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here, Brian. Really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So I have my CFA charter. I'm a CFA charter holder. I did finance and accounting in school. I worked various jobs in the banking industry from like the branch to asset management.
Yeah.
And in 2021, at either 2020, 2021, I discovered Bitcoin. And I not discovered it for the first time, but I started really going into it. I initially discovered it, believe it or not, in 2010 when
Wow.
it was basically worthless. And I ignored it because I thought this thing is worth it's not worth my time. But think about where I would be today if I
Yeah.
hadn't ignored it back then. So a lot of people are probably going to a lot of people, maybe not your audience, but a lot of people are going to want to ignore this in general. And I think in 10, 15, 20 years, they're going to be talking about it exactly the same way that I'm talking about it today. So in 2010, I ignored it. I thought it was useless. Then 2013, I came across it again in university. Again, I was more focused on school.
Yep.
2017, same thing. I was more focused on my job. And I thought Bitcoin was nothing. It's not worth my time. And then in 2020, 2021, something sparked in my mind where it just made me want to discover more about what this thing is. And so there were a couple things that kind of pushed me in that direction. So one of the things was that my coworker told me, go listen to Michael Saylor. I think that might have been in 2021. Um,
Wow.
he told me to go listen to Michael Saylor, listen to a couple of his videos, and see what this guy has to say. Bitcoin is going to change the world and all that. Initially, when he told me that, it was Bitcoin was at about 3,500. I remember looking at my screen and I was thinking, oh, this thing is going to go lower. This was right after. I think this was right before that massive run where it went to 60K. Um, but I ignored it again, and I was just stupid. So at 3,000, I ignored it. Um, and then in 2021, I started posting on social media. So I started posting on Instagram. Before I
Wow.
started posting on Instagram, I never used Instagram. I didn't really care for social media. But then I started posting on Instagram and I came across somebody's story and they mentioned the Bitcoin standard. And the Bitcoin standard is actually right there on my shelf. Not
Yeah.
sure if people can see it. My camera's not the best, but I read the Bitcoin standard and it actually gave me more questions than answers. So after discovering that and doing a little bit more research and putting in the time to understand what this thing is, we're here today, 2024. I mentioned this to you before. 2024, the CFA Institute investigated me for being too bullish on Bitcoin. 2025, I'm doing this full time and I'm talking to people about Bitcoin. I'm helping people to discover Bitcoin, to figure out what Bitcoin is, and that's my career now.
Yeah, it's so funny because, most of my audience, as you know, like they're business owners, they're marketers, they have their own business and they make pretty good money. But the problem is what I've learned and the reason why I've been so bullish on Bitcoin and posting content and happy to have a conversation with you to further educate my audience is because most of them don't understand the difference between fiat and Bitcoin or what money is and what money isn't. And when I discovered this similar to you, it's like I first heard about it as well. I mean, not 2020. 2010 is like super early. Like that was like crazy. But for me, it was like 20, it was in college. It was like 2012, 2013. So a little bit around there, but I ignored it as well. I didn't have any concern at that time. I was a college kid. I was broke. I didn't have any money anyways. But still today, even being as educated as we are, my audience, I believe, still questions why I'm posting about Bitcoin. And so I'd love to go deeper into like what you said earlier, which was like there was a few things that happened that made me want to discover it and like learn about it. And so like what was, I guess, like the most humbling thing that had to happen for you to actually take it seriously, if you don't mind sharing that?
I think it was so okay. So one thing that really got me to start thinking a little bit past, let's say, index funds, real estate.
Yeah.
When I used to post on Instagram, I used to ignore people who would. So I would assume that, oh, inflation is 2%. And I would ignore people who are commenting, and I'd get comments regularly saying inflation is not 2%. Inflation is way higher. You're being lied to, right? And
Oh,
I don't,
wow.
but the thing is that I would ignore them, right? I would think, oh, these people are idiots. Who are these? Who are they? I have my CFA. It was more like an ego thing, right? And I
Yeah.
just felt like, oh, I know more than these people, and I don't have to do anything that they tell me. But I think I've changed over time, and maybe you've noticed that. I'm very open to feedback now. I'm very open to admitting when I'm wrong. Back then, I wasn't. I think that's the fiat mindset, right? So I saw this tweet um, where it said fiat pays you for qualifications and Bitcoin pays you for proof of work.
Oh,
I
wow.
thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. I just saw that a few days ago, but I saw that a few days ago, and it blew my mind. I think that's what I was going through back then, right? And that really humbled me, and it made me think, okay, I don't know everything. I don't know what I don't know, and I'm making a huge mistake by ignoring these people. I mean, the reason, and actually that's one thing that really got me to where I am with YouTube. So on YouTube, when I was just starting, if you watch my early videos, you're gonna see that I'm constantly saying I'm
Yeah.
saying right. I'm like right, this and that, and it just it was just it didn't sound very professional. And people commented that. People were like, "Hey, you're saying right too many times." And if it was me back then, I would have thought, oh, these people are just being assholes.
Yeah. They
This is
suck.
just
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
That's just how I talk. But now I don't do that. I'm actively making sure that I don't say these words. Here and there it comes out, of course, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm actively trying to make sure it's always in the back of my mind. Don't say right, don't say right. Because I was just
Mm.
saying that way too much before. But that humbling moment was um, when I finally thought, okay, maybe these people know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying something. And then I came across a post. It was a story of somebody saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to 10K. Um, Read the Bitcoin Standard, learn about what this thing is. This is generational wealth," and just a series of posts that I saw after that. Because that's what Instagram does, right? Once you see one thing, if you stay on it too long, they'll start recommending it to you more. And it worked out really, really well. And I'm so happy that it worked out that way. But if I hadn't let go of my ego, I guess I don't think I'd
Mm.
be here today, right? I
Yeah.
I feel like when I was talking about index funds, because index funds were actually like people talking about index funds, people talking about investing, it was actually very saturated. I don't think I would have done very well. But with Bitcoin, because I put in the time, I have this specific knowledge that most people don't have.
Mm.
It's been it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And what's funny is that you said the ego was what didn't allow you to actually do more research previously. I had the same conversation with Brandon Gentile. He has an amazing
Oh
YouTube
yeah,
channel as well.
really great
Yeah,
channel.
yeah, and we had this entire conversation that was based around that same concept, which for me was the same thing. It was like, here I am, I have my business, I'm making good money, I have a team, things are going well, and then I'm seeing Bitcoin pop up every now and then, and people talk about Bitcoin, but I don't really pay attention to it because everything's going good in fiat land. Like everything's
Yeah,
going well. Like I'm making good money, my business is doing well. I don't really have to worry about money. So like I don't really care about Bitcoin because I don't really understand what it is, right? But then the problem was when I looked at it, like you said, it was just like an ego thing. It was like, I thought I'm good. Like, I don't need that right now. I don't need to worry about that.
yeah,
They don't know what they're talking about. And then as I started looking into Bitcoin and what it was and studying it more, I realized, oh, I don't know much about money at all. In fact, I assumed the US dollar would always be here. I assumed the US government was always in our best interest to help us out as people, as tax paying citizens. I assumed all these different things about what you are sort of propagandized to believe. And then the reality is when you look into it, it's like, oh, that's actually not true. And then it actually becomes an ego death because everything that you were told ends up becoming really, like, it just exposes you to what you don't know. Like you said it perfectly. Like, I realized I didn't know a lot about what I thought I did, and I had to learn. There's so much more to learn here.
Yeah, I feel like Bitcoin shines a light on the things that you don't understand because it forces you to ask why. It forces you to ask. It forces you to just keep asking why is this? Why is
Yeah.
this? Why? Like when I read the Bitcoin standard, I think I came out with more confusion than I went in with because there
Yeah.
are so many topics there that were introduced to me that I didn't really understand before, right? So as a CFA, like a CFA charter holder, and that really doesn't mean anything. So if somebody has their CFA, don't just assume that they understand how money works. Don't just take their advice blindly. Question them. Because I was I assumed that I knew everything and I didn't. And I had my CFA at that point, right? That's the crazy part. So in the CFA, they there's no there's not even a page where they question what would happen if at least from what I remember, that if the US dollar failed.
Wow.
Right? Nobody questioned that. Nobody asked that. And that's something that that's something that I fell for, right? I just assumed, oh yeah, the US dollar is going to be here forever. And then something you mentioned earlier, you mentioned in 2012 to 2013, you thought that you didn't have enough money. To your audience, get rid of that way of thinking.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you have. I've run the numbers. Even if you put $1 a month into Bitcoin, at some point it will add up. $1 a month. I think anybody can do that, right? Even if you're in
Yeah.
debt, you can buy $1 a month of Bitcoin, right? And normally people in my position would be telling you, oh, pay off your debt, pay off your debt.
Yeah.
But no, even if you have credit card debt, I don't care. Buy $1 of Bitcoin a month. You can do
Wow.
that. Like that's that the and the reason why I say that is because it plants that seed in your mind where it shows you that you can accumulate. You don't need to take it all. You don't need to just buy it all at once. Like let's say you want to get to one Bitcoin. You don't need to go buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin at once. How
Hmm.
many, let's say for example, you read a book. You're going to read it page by page. You're not going to assume that, oh, I'm going to go from the beginning to the end. I'm going to just osmosis this information into my brain, right? That it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
If you're eating
Yeah.
a steak, you're going to eat it bite by bite. You're not just going to stuff the whole thing in your face. If
Yeah.
you're starting a business, like even yourself, man, you were telling me you've been doing this for years. And in the beginning, you probably thought, oh, I don't know anything about this. And
Yeah.
now you've probably forgotten more than you knew in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right, and I've spoken to you and I've worked with you, and the the knowledge that you have is so damn valuable, but that came over time, right? So don't even think that way. Don't think like, oh, I don't have enough money. You can buy any amount. You can buy $10 a week, $10 a month, whatever you want to buy. I think that's so valuable. And in your case, I know you didn't mean it like, oh, I didn't want to buy it, but in your case, even though you had very little money
Yeah.
at that time, think about how much you could have bought,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with Satoshis right now. So 2012, 2013, Bitcoin was what, like maybe $100 or something? You could
Hmm.
have bought, if you had $100, you could have bought one Bitcoin, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. But now people are thinking the exact same thing. They're thinking, oh, I don't have enough money. I can't buy, uh, I can't buy a whole Bitcoin. So what's the point? But you can buy Satoshis. You can buy
Mm.
Satoshi by Satoshi, every single Satoshi that you buy counts. It will count towards something in the future. Give it a few years, stack weekly, do whatever you can to build as much of it as you can. At some point, you're going to see that today's price is a rounding error. And this is something I say a lot. At some point, you're going to see that Bitcoin moves $125,000 in a year, then it moves $125,000 in a month, then it
Wow.
moves $125,000 in a week, then in a day, and then in an hour. And then we're going to see that it's fluctuating $125,000 a minute because that price will be, like I said, a rounding error. Over time, the price will continue to go up forever. So just stack whatever you can. I think that's the thing that really got me. Before I started buying Bitcoin, I was part of that way of thinking where, oh, it's $3,000. I want to buy more. I want to get 10 Bitcoin. I want to get 20 Bitcoin. And I mean, if I had put in the money at that time, I would have a lot more Bitcoin than I have today.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And you know what's funny too is the whole, like, I think what you just said is like super key because until you actually get off zero, right? Like you don't really understand what you don't understand. Like you don't know
Yeah.
what you don't know. And so to your point of like getting off zero as quickly as possible, it's like, yeah, had I got off zero in 2012, 2013, like I'd be so much farther ahead by now. Like I wouldn't even I'd have way more Bitcoin, obviously. But what do you think is like, because like for example, I helped my wife's dad actually get off zero recently, and he's still thinking in terms of the fiat price. So, for example, right, he invested a certain amount of money. I helped him move it to cold storage. I walked him through the entire process. I sent him the money from my, wallet to his instantly, and he was like really surprised by that. And he
Wow.
was like, so he started seeing the opportunity that Bitcoin can do in terms of being used as money and how it's so much like it literally went to his wallet instantly, even with the
Insane.
fees of like the average time to speed, right? But when what was funny was the comment that he made to me was like, okay, so he invested, let's say, a certain amount of money, but he's like, it only went up by like, this much. And so he was really set on the price only increasing by a little bit since he bought it basically about a month and a half ago, right?
Yeah.
And why do you think it's hard for everyday people still to realize that they're measuring it in the fiat terms? Because for example, to me, I'm like, no, you don't understand, dude. You got like people can barely get to like, let's say, zero point 0.1 Bitcoin today. Like people, like they don't even realize
Yeah.
how valuable that is. But in his
Right.
mind, all he's thinking about is like, oh, it only went up like, a couple $100, for example. And it's like, no, dude, you don't understand what you have. And I think most of my audience still doesn't actually understand what a Bitcoin actually is and potentially will be worth. And I know you have tons of videos on your channel where you've projected out the math, like you just briefly explained there. But what do you think causes them to kind of still measure it in fiat terms and get almost sort of depressed, or like not really feel like it's worth it because they don't see the price going up every day and it's really only been a month or two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think it's a combination of them just believing that fiat is going to be around forever. I
Mm,
get a lot of questions from people saying, "Oh, what's going to happen to Bitcoin when fiat dies?" Right? It's Bitcoin's going to flourish. It's going to do way better. It's going to do even better than it's doing today when fiat dies, right? Because
yeah.
more and more people are going to realize that, okay, this is the thing that I want. Think about how many people today are saving in dollars, right? Around the world. There's a lot of people saving in dollars, and that's a problem because their money is slowly disappearing. So I think the first thing that people need to wrap their heads around is the fact that US dollars are borrowed into existence.
Yeah.
Let me repeat that. US dollars are borrowed into existence. They're created through loans. So you can go to your bank and you can tell them, "Hey, I want to go buy this house." And your bank will give you dollars so that you can go buy that house because they'll create those dollars out of nothing. And they'll charge you an interest rate for creating those dollars out of nothing. Like they're making a profit out of nothing. Like it's like if I wrote something on a spreadsheet and I said, "Hey, you can take this spreadsheet, and you have to pay me yearly for it or monthly for it or whatever." It's just the craziest thing ever. How is it possible that we're trading something that's of real value, like a house,
Mm.
for something that can be borrowed into existence? Like they can literally just write a number in their database. I think most people don't get that. That's one thing that most people are behind on. They don't understand that that's how fiat works. And
Mm.
one of the people who asked me a question about this was my sister-in-law. So I told her you should buy some Bitcoin, and she wanted to ask me why. Why do I do this? This makes no sense. So I told her these things are printed, and she's like, I don't care. Why does that matter to me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's because she didn't understand it, right? It's not
Yeah.
like people just don't understand. They don't put their head. They don't think about it, right? It's like for me, I had my finance background, but I hadn't
Mm.
thought that this is the way that the world works. I hadn't thought that, okay, the thing that we're working for can be printed by someone else.
Yeah.
What, like that has so many people. Even right now, people are not thinking about the level at which this screws them over, right? Because if you're saving in this and somebody else can create more at will,
Yeah.
it just means that whatever you're saving is decreasing in value. It's like if you have a collectible like a Michael Jordan rookie card, and suddenly the company that creates it makes more and more copies of it. What's going to happen to what you have, right?
Yeah.
The value of that thing is the scarcity. If even our time, if we didn't realize that our time is scarce, then nothing would have value, right? Why would we want to go on trips if our time wasn't scarce? Why would
Mm.
we spend time with our family and friends if we didn't know that our time is scarce? And scarcity is the root of everything here. And what money does, when money is supposed to be a way for people to interact with other people that they don't know, that they don't trust already. And today we trust our governments and we don't trust the people around us. And our governments want that to keep happening. They don't want us to build relationships with other people. They want chaos because that's how they thrive. And they do that through the money. They do that by making you go broke and then blaming other people. I know this is probably sounding a little bit of like a conspiracy theory, and that's perfectly fine. Do the research to your audience, do the research for yourselves, right? Governments thrive if we rely on them.
Yeah.
If we don't rely on them, if we rely on our family and friends, and if we rely on our neighbors, and if we rely on people like me relying on you, for example, and there's no government involvement in that, how much better would the world be? Right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to build these relationships with other people. We're going to build these connections with other people, and it'll help us to grow as individuals. That's what synergy is,
Yeah.
right? Synergy is where, let's say you give me some feedback, I give you some feedback, and then both of us grow, right? We create something that wasn't there before, right? And that's exactly what happened when we first met. You asked me, hey, should I make Bitcoin videos on my YouTube channel? And I told you yes. And you know that video that you made about the Rolex, where you sold the
Yeah.
Rolex, you went to the shop and you went through it and you negotiated with him. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that video forever, right? Because
Yeah.
that video was so impactful. You sold something that was it was like a prized possession to you. You gave it away to someone. You took fiat and you exchanged that into Bitcoin. And think about how many people are probably thinking, "Oh, this guy's an idiot. He took this valuable thing, this gold
Yeah.
watch, and he could have held on to it, and instead he has nothing. He has thin air now." That's what people are probably thinking. So back to that question, why are people not understanding this? It's because they don't understand the issue.
Yeah.
They don't understand that their money is being stolen from them. They don't understand that because they've been taught to believe their entire lives that the money they have is the money they have, and
Mm.
there's no, even like I said, even the financial professionals don't question this. So why would the
Yeah.
average person?
Yeah, it's so funny too because the whole time you're saying that, I could just think about actually this book behind me right here. One of my friends, who I won't name his name, when I told them to read this book, The
Oh,
Creature of Jekyll Island, right? I'll hold it up to the camera here. I remember I actually had a group chat with two of my friends, and one of them bought the book immediately because they were all so open-minded to uh, what they don't know potentially, right? And I said, if you read this book, it'll explain the problem that you have, that we all have, everyone watching this video has with fiat currency and why the price of everything keeps rising. This will explain it right here. One of the friends bought it. The other friend said, I never read it, and I probably won't read it because I heard it's written by a conspiracy theorist.
oh,
And I remember like that message hit me, and I was just like, wow, like this is literally someone who is going to write off potentially life-changing information in this book that can actually make them question why things are happening in their life the way they are because they were told that this was a book written by the term conspiracy theorist. And again, I talk about this on Brandon's show as well, but it's like the term conspiracy theorist was also invented to disown any information by that person to then further confuse the public and have them avoid reading it. But it's so funny because when you're talking, I'm just like, man, people first don't understand the problem. And the way I always like to describe it is this: it's very easy to understand the problem when you ask a very simple question. And the question I ask myself is your cost of living higher than it was last year or the last 3 years or the last 5 years? Have eggs gotten more expensive for you? Has groceries become more and more for you? Has your rent gone up, but the quality of your apartment or your house gotten worse? If the answer is yes, the chances are you already are aware of the problem, but you're not aware of the solution because you still believe the solution is, well, the governments are acting in my best interest, or I have to make more money to keep up with inflation. But everyone, and I don't know about you, but I see this all the time on social media. It's like there's more and more people coming out on TikTok, especially of them complaining about the cost of living. And there's like I saw the stat the other day. I don't know if you
yeah.
saw this on Twitter. It was like back in like 20, I don't know what year it was. There was only like 4.8 million digital nomads. Who knows how accurate that was? This is a couple years ago. Today, apparently, per this study that I remember on Twitter, there's over almost close to 50 million digital nomads. And
Wow.
I believe that's also a symptom of the fact that the money is broken because where they probably were living is cost of living is crazy high, and they're getting way more outside of their existing country where they were born in for the price they're actually paying, which is why you see people moving to Asia and all these countries. And why, for example, me and my wife, like we live in Miami, like one of the most expensive places you can ever live, right? And we make good money. But I can get a 4x quality of life living in a country like Medellin, Colombia, where my wife is actually from, because of the dollar's purchasing power there compared to what it is here. And so, like, all these different reasons are causing people to actually wake up, but there's still, and this is why you and I actually do this, I believe, is because we want to educate people that there is a solution. They can get off zero, they can become their own bank, they can remove the need for a government, like I showed my wife's dad the other day, and say, hey, look how instantly I was able to send you that money. No middleman, no waiting time. It got to you directly from me. Like, that's
That's
life
huge.
changing right there.
Yeah, that's huge. That
Yeah.
that's massive. See, that's one thing that people can't wrap their heads around. I was having a conversation with someone on X, and it was just a random person, and um, she was saying how Bitcoin is a scam because it doesn't allow governments to control us. That's crazy, right? Like, how do you even get to that point? How do you get to that point of thinking? So I was telling her how the U.S. government shouldn't be able to send money that it prints to other countries, right? And do you agree with that?
No, what, like, that's crazy. I think what you just said is, how do you get to that line of
It's
thinking?
wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
And she was like,
what
"Oh,
rabbit hole did she go down to get to where she's like the complete opposite of the Bitcoin community?
yeah, that's exactly it, right?" Like, and how do you get to that point where you keep thinking that way? But it's again, it's like the conspiracy theorist thing that you said, where the U.S. government is probably the one that's spreading the most misinformation, right?
Yeah.
When in the last Super Bowl, was it the last Super Bowl? Oh, no, no, the one before that. Joe Biden came on screen and he was like, "I need my ice cream, I need my cookies and all that stuff." And he had this red. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He had red eyes, and he's like, "All these companies are ruining it for everyone." And I'm just paraphrasing what he said, and he said it a lot more elegantly, but he was
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
saying how um, it's corporate greed that's ruining your life, and it's a way to just transfer the blame
Yeah.
from what's actually happening to everybody else. And that's I think that's one of the downstream effects of fake money, right? It's that governments need to find a way to keep printing money,
Hmm.
and they need to find a way to keep being able to create their own. But and then what Bitcoin does. So actually you were mentioning that that you wanted to talk about the buy borrow die strategy. This is a perfect transition into that, right? If you have Bitcoin, you can use their strategy to your own advantage, right? Because what you can do is you can take your Bitcoin, you can use it as collateral, and you can get the bank to print more fiat for you, right?
Hmm.
And that's the craziest thing, right? That's the best thing in the world for Bitcoiners because now Bitcoiners are essentially able to speculatively attack the fiat currency financial system. And what that means is this is it's almost like a corporate term at this point, speculative attack. But what that means is that if Bitcoiners hold on to their Bitcoin and they borrow against it, what they can do is they can keep taking on more and more fiat, and they can literally sustain their life with that lending that they can participate in. So they can use their Bitcoin essentially as
Yeah.
credit. They can borrow fiat against it, and then they never have to pay it back.
Yeah.
That blew my. So I used to think, oh, borrowing against your Bitcoin is stupid and it's too risky, and
Yeah.
it really it is. But I think that there's I guess you have to look at both sides, or you have to look at the positives and the negatives. You need to look at the pros and the cons. If you what got me to start changing my mind on that is that if most people don't want Bitcoin, then why would I sell it? I'm just going to
Yeah.
sell it to MicroStrategy. I'm just going to sell it to BlackRock. I'm just going to sell it to Fidelity. So why wouldn't I just participate in the same game that they're playing instead of giving away my assets, right? And and that got me into this rabbit hole where I just started making spreadsheets about it, and I added it to my compound interest calculator, and I looked into LTVs. And one of the crazy thing is here that as your Bitcoin grows, you're going to be able to take bigger and bigger loans against that Bitcoin because fiat's going to keep getting debased.
Mm.
The wealth in the system is going to keep being transferred to people who own assets. The dollar, the purchasing power of the dollar will keep falling forever. Like today, you can buy what? Look, in 1913, you could buy something like 30 chocolate bars for $1. Did you see that chart where the purchasing power is just falling?
Yeah.
Today, you can probably buy one chocolate bar for $1. At some point, you're gonna be able to buy one chocolate bar for $30, right? It's just gonna
Mm.
reverse, and that's the crazy part. over time, if you can hold on to that Bitcoin and you can build your stack, that's the key here. Just build your stack, keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. At some point, let's say 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, you're gonna see that you have so much wealth that you don't know what to do with it. Like you're gonna have
Yeah.
so much money that the money that you've saved up is gonna cover your life literally forever. So let's say, for example, if you have 10 times your annual expenses in Bitcoin, that means you have 10 years of income that you have 10 years of your expenses saved up. And you don't have to work for those 10 years if you don't want to. So Bitcoin can, number one, give you that infinite fiat machine. I like to call it an infinite fiat machine. It can give you that infinite amount of fiat that you can keep borrowing against it. Then it'll give you the freedom to tell your manager to go screw themselves if they're pissing you off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's so,
valuable.
yeah, 100%. And it's so funny because, um, what I think this is what I like about your content because like, I've seen your content evolve too. Like ever since I stumbled across Bitcoin and really went down the rabbit hole, it's like you're one of the first channels I was like watching like every day, just trying to learn more and more and more. And it's funny because I've seen your message evolve too, where it's like you probably realize this as well. It's like most people they if they understand what we just said in the first half of this video, right? Okay, they understand the problem now. They understand why Bitcoin is a solution and how it benefits them. And they probably have questions of like how much Bitcoin do I need, right? And so I would love for you to share, maybe even if you want to pull up the compound interest calculator and maybe share some of that. But the next thing I've discovered at least is they understand they need Bitcoin now, hopefully. But then the question becomes, how do I get more Bitcoin? And so I've actually seen your channel approach this as well because you're starting to say the same thing that I think I've realized I need to tell people as well, which is they need to actually start creating value. Like
Yeah.
if they're working a job right now and they're not able to earn more than they actually spend on their life every single month, they're not going to be able to stack more Bitcoin because you can only sell so many Rolex watches, and downgrade to a Casio, which, looks just as good and is $60 compared to 50K. But you can only sell so much things before you have nothing, right? Like you eventually have to live your life and not sell everything you
Yeah.
own. So how do you actually earn more money? Well, I've seen you talk about this too. You have to create more value in the marketplace. And so the way you do it obviously is YouTube channel. You've started a successful YouTube channel. You're now almost 40,000 subscribers, which is amazing. So YouTube pays you. You have the Bitcoin school community, which people should join if they want to learn more. It's called Retire with Bitcoin with Rajat. Check it out. It's like amazing. I'm inside of it. It's really amazing information. Like you can add more value. So like, do you find people also are in the same position where they want to stack more Bitcoin, but they don't know how to add more value? Like they don't know,
Definitely.
like they're trying to do it without actually becoming more valuable to the marketplace.
Right. Yeah, no, I get exactly. That's such a good question. I feel like that it actually ties into Bitcoin as well because one of the things that I've noticed with Bitcoin is that people are going to want to create as much value as they can as soon as possible because they know that if they wait,
Yes.
then the Bitcoin value is going to go up and they won't be able
Yeah.
to get as much Bitcoin, right? So they won't be able to exchange it for as much Bitcoin. And I think you do that really well. You've with your ad agency and all the work that you do. Brian helped me, by the way. He did a really great job so far. He's been giving me so many tips. He's been helping me to improve my presentations, and that's the value, right? You gain. I mentioned something called specific knowledge earlier.
Hmm.
This is a term that Naval Ravikant talks about. He has this podcast where he says how to get rich. And it's a 3.5 hour, 4 hour podcast. He talks about specific knowledge. You have specific knowledge with ads, right? You have knowledge with emotions. You have a knowledge with psychology. You have knowledge
Yeah.
with just running these platforms, which I wouldn't have, right? And you're selling that knowledge to other people. But what you're doing is not only are you enriching yourself, but you're also enriching the other person.
Yeah.
That's what a business is supposed to be, right?
Yep.
You're supposed to solve other people's problems. And I think everybody can do that. Everybody can solve a problem for someone else and they can make money from it. And there's no problem with that. I used to believe that, I don't want to charge people for my knowledge, doesn't make any sense. But that's probably the best way to go, right? Why wouldn't you want to charge for your knowledge? What
Yeah.
does a mechanic do? A mechanic knows about how to deal with cars and they charge their customers for doing what their customer would have taken like 10, 15, 20 hours to do. That
Exactly.
mechanic can do it in an hour, right? So they're helping their customers save time. That's how they create value. They create value in their customer's life by helping them to repair their car
Yeah.
and not have to spend like 40 hours doing that, right? When I wanted to before when I was I guess when I didn't have a Bitcoin when I had the fiat mindset, I would do whatever I could to save a penny, right? A few dollars here and there, and I would spend all my time learning about random useless stuff that I could just outsource, right? I could just go
Yeah.
to my mechanic, get my brakes changed, whereas I would do it myself instead because I thought, oh, saving 60, 70, $80 is worth it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really make any sense to do that because the other person can do it so much quicker. So
Yeah.
develop that specific knowledge, develop any kind of knowledge, and then help other people,
Yeah.
right? Let's say, for example, if you're a really organized person, you use this really great. There was somebody who I used to, who I used to follow on Instagram. I think her name was millennial, something millennial. But basically, she used to be really organized, and she would focus on vision boards, and she started selling those vision boards to people, and people loved it, right? And it's
Wow.
not like she was charging $1,000, right? She was charging $1 each, and it was just a template, and you could do whatever you wanted with it. And
Yeah.
she made like 100 grand from it, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Most people can't even think of making 100 grand in a few weeks from anything. She just
Hmm.
had this thing already, and she was doing it already, and she sold the template to someone. So the point here is create as much value as you can,
Yeah.
sell that value to other people, and they will pay you for it. They'll gladly pay you for it. I used to
Yeah.
be so worried about selling my knowledge to people, and people are willing to pay me because it'll change their lives, right? So let's say, for example, if somebody books a one-on-one call with me, I'll give them information in an hour that it would take them, let's say, 2 years to understand. In two
Yeah.
years, what's Bitcoin's price going to be? What if Bitcoin's price doubles in that time, right?
Yep.
You saved $300, $200, 100, whatever the amount is, but you lost out on stacking Bitcoin at these prices, and that's crazy. The I used to do webinars for $50, and I always questioned myself, oh, I'm charging too much. Now I'm thinking back, I should have charged way more
Yeah.
because the value that I created was huge. There were
Yeah.
people who took the so I with those webinars, I just want to brag a little bit, but with those webinars, I think I probably orange pilled at least 2,500 people.
That's amazing, man.
Crazy,
Wow.
right? And there was one guy who booked a call with me after, and he told me after the webinar he went and bought 30 Bitcoin,
Yeah.
30 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? I'm never going to get to 30 Bitcoin, but he bought 30 Bitcoin because of my knowledge, right? And I
Yeah.
sold that knowledge to him. So think about the value that that created. It helped him, it helped me. I should have charged more, but that's my own fault, right? So all you can do is create more value, create more value, create more value, and stack that into Bitcoin. But again, that ties into Bitcoin because Bitcoin can't be disrupted while every business can be. So
Yes.
if you create value and then you convert it into Bitcoin, your business will eventually be disrupted, but that Bitcoin won't be. So what it'll
Yes.
do is, let's say you work for 5 years and your business does really well, and then some competitor comes out and they eat your lunch, right? In that 5 years, put money into Bitcoin because at some point that money is going to be worth so much, you're not going to need to run a business if you don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny too because it's like for you, I look on your story, right? You used to be you had the certification in Canada, right? You had the CF, it's called the CFA.
CFA,
CFA,
global.
right?
Yeah, it's global.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and you had the CFA and you had this information in a finance background, right? But you used that information, you applied it to a different industry, Bitcoin, one that you were more passionate about because once you discovered it, you said, okay, I got to teach more people about this because I never knew anything like this, even though I had the certification. So then you
Yeah.
start your YouTube channel, you start posting content, you start educating people, people start paying you for your time. You have the school community now. Like you said, that guy or 2,500 people you've orange pilled. I remember I had the conversation with you the other day too. I was like, bro, you need to be charging way more. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm going to help you with that, obviously. But it's like, because, like you said, that guy went out and bought 30 Bitcoin. That's today's price, over $3 million, right?
Yeah.
Like just from one of your webinars or a combination of your videos. And I remember you also on one of your videos, I think it was maybe in our first, I think maybe actually the one on one call I booked with you previously that I paid you for. I think on that call, you told me you actually helped someone who had a number of like real estate properties. I think it was like 15 real estate
I think
properties.
15 rental
Yeah.
properties.
And
Yeah.
and he sold 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
He sold 10 of them
After two meetings.
after two meetings with you, which again, the price of your calls right now, if anyone's watching this, like if it's still the same price, like you need to book immediately with Rajat because it should not be worth what it is. It's way more valuable, like we just said. But he went and sold those 10 real estate properties to buy more Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
That's generational wealth for him, and way more importantly, way less stress because he doesn't have to worry about tenants managing those properties, and the value of that Bitcoin's only going to appreciate, like we've talked about here. So it's just so funny because if you look back on like my journey as well, I started at a job. Like I was doing what I'm doing now for myself, but I was doing it for an employer. He was paying me for my time to do it for his business. And then I realized, oh, there's plenty of other businesses or solopreneurs that need this help as well. Why don't I just do it for myself and offer this service to them as a business? And so I did that. I learned how to run ads and do marketing. I offered that as an agency to other businesses. They paid me to do it. And then I started building a team around it and scaling it. But like you said, what's funny is I always think about in the world of AI as well, where we're going, it's going to get more, it's going to get cheaper to produce things and to deliver the service, which we're already seeing. And then at that point, what's actually valuable when the world's super abundant when it comes to this technology? Bitcoin. Why? 21 million hard cap. You can't print more of it. You can't duplicate it. You can't confiscate it. All of these reasons we talk about here. But now that people understand, okay, cool, the Bitcoin problem solves the problem that they're actually experiencing, but they don't realize it. Why Bitcoin solves that problem? Why they can't just sell everything they own? They actually have to figure out a way to add more value now, because it's like we're at a race here. It is the Bitcoin gold rush. Now let's actually probably transition into the compound interest calculator and educate people, okay, like how much Bitcoin does it actually matter for them? Because then you're going to show the 2013, 2012 me who's watching this video that maybe has a couple grand or maybe, six figures laying around. Like, okay, how much is this actually going to impact me in the future?
Yeah. Okay, let me share my screen here. Here it is. Okay.
Because these are
So,
some of the best videos I watch of you that I'm like, man, if people just saw this, which is why I want to have you, because my audience, they would love this.
oh, the compound interest scale. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they're
So,
they're all marketers and business owners, right? So like, okay, the emotional side, I've taught them. I've told them the what and the how,
yeah.
but now it's like, well, let me see this in action now. What are the numbers behind this?
See, that's one of the crazy things, right? If you can't get past the emotional side of it, you can't get to this point.
Interesting. Yeah,
Right?
it's so true.
If you keep thinking, oh, Bitcoin is going to go to zero, it's too volatile, you don't care about this, right?
Yeah.
And I think no matter what you do, if you run your own business, you can probably outperform Bitcoin for a few years,
Oh
but
yeah,
at
yeah,
some
yeah.
point, I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore,
Yeah, it's
right?
so true. Quick side note, someone my most recent video about Bitcoin, I talk about this. It was called Why Bitcoin Matters More Than Making Millions, because someone left a comment on my videos because they followed me for the last few years and they said, "Brian, this is like such a distraction. You can make way more money with your skill set, which we've talked about, which is helping businesses scale with ads and marketing, and that's what I've done the last 7 years." And he completely missed the point of me talking about it, because in that video I say, "Dude, it's not about using the skill set to make more money in fiat. It's about educating my audience about the problem they don't realize is happening to them, even though they're experiencing it right now. Which, if
Yes.
I just do that and someone, maybe one person, not, maybe just one person opens their eyes and they see the problem, then they can actually realize, oh, I can actually solve this by. So, point being is you're 100% right, because people still believe, like, okay, yeah, Brian's like he's getting distracted. It's like maybe I'm getting distracted, but it's because I feel unethical not talking about this because I believe it's going to help way more people.
And I feel like you're right in saying that because if you think about it, with when you accumulate Bitcoin, there's going to be a point where you don't have to do anything and it'll keep growing, right? Like there's Michael Saylor's company, MicroStrategy. They have 640,000 Bitcoin, right? They can do nothing now, and the Bitcoin will just keep appreciating.
Yep.
They don't have like how much harder do you think Microsoft is working than MicroStrategy? How much harder do you think Apple is working? How much harder do you think Nvidia is working to generate whatever profits they're generating? Whereas MicroStrategy doesn't need to do anything,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
If Bitcoin keeps giving you a 30, 35, 40% return over the next few years, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does. I actually would be surprised if it goes lower than that because this is the only finite asset we have.
Yep.
And this is the only time when you can accumulate it. At some point, you're not going to be accumulating, you're not going to be buying Bitcoin for fiat because people won't want fiat. You're going
Yes.
to be working for it. You're going to be giving away your time for it. And that's the only way that you'll be able to get Bitcoin. So let's say, for example, if you were to save $10,000 a month, and that's a lot of money, $10,000 a month in a savings account that gets you 0.1% interest. This is how much money you'll have over time. So ignore the Bitcoin balance. The fiat balance is the key here. So in 2045, so this is the number, 2045. 2045, you'll have $2.4 million.
Yeah. So I'll be 51 by then.
51. Okay.
Mhm.
So 20 years from now,
Yep.
$2.4 million. Now let's go into what Bitcoin would look like. So let's say you were to put $200 a month. Instead of 10,000, you're putting 200. Think about that. Think about the difference there. 200
Okay.
versus 10,000. That's what,
Yeah.
2%, I think? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
2%,
yeah.
right? So 2%. So $200, Bitcoin gives you a 35% return. I think 35 is pretty reasonable, right? Because
Yeah.
the US dollar can keep losing value over and over again over time. It can keep losing
Yep.
value continuously, literally forever. So if you were to put 35, if you were to put $200 per month into Bitcoin, it gives you a 35% return. I know it's going to be volatile, it's going to go up, it's going to come down, but based on these numbers, because we don't know when that's going to happen, we don't know when the volatility will hit. Based on these numbers, you can see here that your portfolio value and $10,000 a month gives you $2.4 million. $200 per month with Bitcoin will give you $3.7 million
In the same 20-year period.
in the same 20-year period.
Yeah.
Like, think about how much money you're putting in. So in this case, $200 per month over the next 20 years works out to $48,000. But $10,000 a month
It's
at
insane.
0.1%,
Yeah.
you would have put $2.4 million into it versus
Yeah.
48,000. 2.4
Yeah.
million versus 48,000. And you would have ended up with less money. So and the key here is I made a video about this yesterday. Your goal here should be to make your money work for you and not to work for your money.
Yep.
You shouldn't want to work for your money forever. Why would you want to work for money forever? You want to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
You want to be like the wealthy, right? The wealthy take advantage of this system and they get to do whatever the hell they want, right? They can go
Yeah.
on trips any day of the week. They don't
Yep.
have to rely on a boss. So think about it this way. So if you put $10,000 a month into your savings account at 0.1%, your savings would have grown by $25,000 in 20 years.
Yikes.
In in that Bitcoin scenario, so $200 per month at 35% per year, it would have grown by $3.7 million.
Jeez.
This is the definition of having your money work for you,
Yep.
right? Your money would have created more money. It would have created 3.6 million additional dollars. And I
Wow.
want to show you this chart here. So this is what your chart would look like if you bought $200 worth of Bitcoin every month. Look at the numbers here, right? If you bought $10,000 worth of fiat every month, or sorry, if you just held on to $10,000 worth of fiat every month, this is what your portfolio would look like.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's linear versus exponential.
Mm-hmm.
Huge difference, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't understand this, then you're not going to get away with not doing something like this.
And
You're going to get screwed over.
and you know what's funny too is like this doesn't even take into consideration what this fiat's actually worth in 20 years. Because for
Yeah,
example, per this equation right here at $10,000 over 20 years at a 0.1% interest, you're
yeah.
saying that they're going to get 2.4 million by the end of the 20 years. But what can 2.4 million get you in 20 years? My guess is that's going to be probably less than like might be even close to minimum wage at that point. Like,
I actually have the calculation on here. So let's say,
oh
for example,
wow.
if your monthly expenses today are 5,500
Okay.
and your cost of living is increasing at 5, do you think 5% is reasonable?
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
think
Because
5%.
right now, like the average, like from what I'm seeing, it's like 10 to like you can say 10 to 15%, but 5% is very conservative.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So let's say your expenses in 2025 are $66,000 a year. Over time, your expenses will keep going up and they'll
Yeah,
keep
look at
going up.
that.
So by 2045, so we mentioned
Yep.
2045, by
Yep.
2045, your expenses would have gone from 66,000 to 175,000 a year.
Wow. Yeah. It's
Right? And then
3x.
there's this other thing here. So if I scroll down a little bit, you'll see here that 20 years is the peak. So I also did something where I divided basically the fiat balance by your monthly expenses. So in the first year, you'd have zero. In the beginning of it, you'd have 0% of your monthly expenses paid for by your portfolio, by your savings. So 0%. Second year, you'd have 173% of your expenses paid for because you would have put away $120,000 or $240,000 or something, or
Mm.
$120,000, and your expenses would be $69,000 a year, right? But over time, that peaks. So your savings divided by your expenses goes from 0% all the way up to 1,385%. So that means that you can pay for 13.85 years of expenses. But over
Mm.
time, this is the peak. It goes down after this because your expenses are growing too fast,
Oh, wow. So after
right?
20 years, yeah, you start going negative. Yeah.
You start going negative. So the worst part is after 20 years. So let's say you retire, you think, oh, I have enough cash. You
Yeah.
retire. Your portfolio is not only going to be dragged down by the amount of money that you're taking out to pay for your expenses, but it's also underperforming your expenses. So at some point, like if you think about this, $10,000 a month is a lot of money for most people, right? For 99.9% of the world,
Yeah.
$10,000 a month is a lot, right? But you can see here, if you're passing your money to your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, $10,000 a month, everything that you saved, if you don't even spend any of it, you'll have $16 million.
Mm.
But by 2150, it would only cover half a year of expenses.
Jeez.
That's crazy. And that's with you spending nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Which
That's
you're
with
not going to do, obviously.
you have to spend, right? You
Yeah.
have to live your life. You have to pass your money on to your kids at some point if you have any left over. But most see that's the thing. If you don't do any of that, if you're the most conservative and you do everything right, you're gonna get screwed over because you can't borrow against your fiat. Of course, fiat is fiat. What are you gonna borrow against it, right? With Bitcoin though, that's the crazy part. You borrow against your Bitcoin, you let that Bitcoin keep compounding, and then you pay back the loan with a smaller amount of Bitcoin in the future if you want to, if you need to, right?
Hmm.
At that point, like the best thing here is that anybody can do this. Anybody can stack this Bitcoin. Like anybody can do the exact same thing. So let's look at the numbers for Bitcoin. So we talked
Hmm.
about the 0.1% savings account. Now let's change the numbers to 35% for Bitcoin and we'll go with $200 a month in investing. You can see here that your stack divided by your expenses keeps rising and it'll keep rising forever. There's no peak. It keeps going
Mm.
up because it's like it goes to that phrase. There's Bitcoin doesn't have a top because fiat doesn't have a bottom,
Yep.
right? Because Bitcoin can outperform fiat forever. So we saw that in 20 years, you would have peaked with your $10,000 a month in savings in your bank account, and it would have been 13.85 years. In this case, in 20 years, you're at 21.31 years. But then it
Wow.
keeps going. Like, look at
Yeah.
that. It keeps going. It keeps growing, and it doesn't stop growing because Bitcoin is scarce.
Hmm.
Fiat
Hmm.
isn't. If you save fiat, you're saving in something that somebody can create more of out of nothing, and you're screwing yourself over.
Yeah.
That's the basic that's the basic point of this, right? Even if you do $1 worth of Bitcoin a day or a month, let's say $1 worth of Bitcoin a month, at some point that dollar worth of Bitcoin is going to be worth millions.
Yeah.
That's $1 a month, right? Anybody can do that. That's what I was saying. Even if you have credit card debt, even if you have the worst debt, $1 a month, you can do it. Because what that'll do is it'll like you mentioned before, if you had started buying Bitcoin in 2012, 2013, you would have had
Hmm.
skin in the game and you would have had to research more and you would have
Yep.
wanted to learn more about it. And maybe you would have pushed yourself to buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And what one column you have there that I want to touch on as well, because I literally had this conversation the other day with I think it was my wife's brother, and I was telling him how our plan, like I was like, I was explaining to him because he was watching some of my videos and he was like, it's one of your videos you said that made sense to me. He's like, Bitcoin's not an investment, it's a savings technology. Like you never like he quoted me. He was saying in the video, I said I don't plan on ever selling my Bitcoin because what would I trade it for? Fiat? Like, of course, I'm not going to do that. That would be the stupidest thing I could ever do because fiat, like you said, they can print endlessly. It'll never
Yeah.
stop going down to zero compared to Bitcoin. And then in that conversation, the reason I was telling him that was because he was asking me about like buying a house very soon. I was like, I don't plan on buying a house in the next 3 to 5 years at the very minimum, because my whole goal and thesis right now is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. Because in the next 3 to 5 years, I'll have the opportunity to buy the house I want for even less in fiat because I have more Bitcoin. And so I want to actually touch on that because you have the Bitcoin slash house, I think, right there.
These ones, right?
Yes, I think so, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me
So
zoom in.
yeah, so let's walk through that because I think still, especially around the my audience as well, like the age that I'm at, I'm 31, I'm married, I have my first daughter 4 months ago. So it's like I'm starting to see, especially in my community and in my clients as well, they're around the same age and opportunity to like, okay, they're thinking about buying a house. And we've been programmed as well, like by our, generate like by my parents or their great grandparents, like buy a house. Like I had a client the other day, he's getting told by his mom, like basically every week, like buy the house, like buy a house, like why, like she's like literally upset that he's not buying a house. And I'm like, dude, do not buy a house in Miami right now. Like the house you're in is not worth $1 million, which is priced at $1 million. I'm like, this is not $1 million house. Like if you just put the same money you're going to buy this house with into Bitcoin, in 5 years, you can buy the house you actually want for way less when priced in Bitcoin. So I would love to go through this exercise and actually show them the math behind it.
Yeah, for sure. So if you look at the price of a house in terms of dollars, it'll keep going up.
Mm.
Right? And that's because more and more dollars will chase the same number of houses. Dollars can be created much more easily than houses. That's the key here. So the government can print dollars, you can go to a bank and print dollars. So more and more dollars will always enter the economy, and people will be buying houses with those dollars because they want to get rid of the dollars. They don't want the
Mm.
dollars, they want the house. They expect that the value of the house will keep going up, so they want more dollars, right? That's the premise here of investing in
It's
housing.
such a Ponzi scheme though, too.
It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. So what the banks do is they lend you money against this house because they know that the house value is going to go
That's
up because
crazy.
they know that if you can't pay them back, they'll be able to sell the house.
Yeah.
It's insane, right? But if you look at column H, so column F versus column H, in column F you see dollars per house. Maybe I should
Yeah.
add that here. I'll do that here. Dollars per house. So
Yep.
in column F you see dollars per house. In column H, you see Bitcoin per house. The biggest difference here is that in terms of Bitcoin, the price of a house keeps falling.
Yep.
It keeps falling and it'll keep falling forever. Whereas your dollars per house is going to keep going up. So I think
Yeah.
what the key takeaway here should be is column G, stack divided by house. So what that means is your Bitcoin stack
Mm.
divided by the price of a house, right?
Oh,
And
I see. So how much Bitcoin is taken from your stack to buy the house?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, or how much of how much how many houses can your stack buy
Oh, wow.
essentially,
Nice.
right? So, like in this case, in the first year, 2025, you can buy 0% because you don't
Hmm.
have any Bitcoin, right?
Hmm.
Second year, 0.0%. And keep in mind, this is with $1 a month. At some point, if we scroll down here, and I also made it so that Bitcoin's returns are more conservative, 20% per year. I had 35% before, 20% per year. So over time, you're going to see that this number keeps growing and growing and growing. And at some point, your dollar a month is going to be worth the value of a house.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
right? Because the price of a house in terms of Bitcoin will keep falling. It'll keep falling. It'll go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 0.9 to 0.5 to
Mm.
0.2. It'll keep falling and it'll keep falling until at some point, in this case, so a dollar a month, you'll be able to buy your, I mean, 2092, that's a long way from here,
Yeah.
right? But that's with $1 a month.
Yep.
$1 a month will be worth $14 million in 2092,
Jeez.
right? But let's say, for example, if we go more realistic, most
Yeah,
people aren't saving a
let's
dollar a month for a
yeah,
house,
let's
right?
let's let's maybe do 5K a month. Like, cause like, most people that follow me, they have their business, right? So they're investing most of
Yeah,
their money back into their business. But let's say they have 5K discretionary every single month to invest
yeah.
into Bitcoin. And let's keep it 20% just to see.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So 5K a month, in a year, you'll have 72,000 saved. And
Yep.
that's with a 20% return. So you would have put in 60K and your Bitcoin would have returned about $12,000. In
Mm.
2033, you would be at $1.1 million. In 2040, you'd be at $5 million. In 2045, you'd be at $13 million. In 2050, you'd be at $33 million.
Yeah.
Right. And I like to make it I don't know if this really makes sense to people or if it really makes a difference in people's minds. So I like to compare it to the traditional ways of investing. So I have a copy of the compound. I just made a copy of it. And what I like to do is if instead of buying $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, what if you bought $5,000 worth of index funds and those index
Yes,
funds gave you
perfect.
$10,000 or
Hmm.
10% a year, right? So
Yep.
let's say you did that. That's the status quo right now in 2033. So let's go back to this. So in 2033, you'd have $1.1 million dollars,
Yep.
whereas with index funds by 2033, you'd have 754K. And that doesn't seem
Mm.
like that big of a difference, but let's keep going. So 2040, you'd have $2 million dollars
Yep.
with index funds. With Bitcoin, you'd have $5 million dollars,
Jeez.
right? By 2044, you'd have $11.1 million dollars. By 2044 here, you'd have $3.3 million dollars.
And look at 2045 on the Bitcoin one. The
Oh,
Bitcoin one is
2045,
yeah, three go back, yeah.
2045, yeah.
Because that was the 20 years. I'll be 51 by then. Like 13, it jumps by 2 million. And then look at
Yeah.
the Fiat, look at the S&P 500 or the index fund, for example, 20. Look at that. It's jumping
Jumps
by,
by
yeah.
400,
Yeah,
400
crazy.
grand. That's crazy. See, that's the thing, right? If people just saw these numbers, they'd think, oh, this is stupid. What's the point of this? It's so far out.
Yeah.
But the status quo here is index funds. Most
S&P.
people just buy index funds, right?
Yep.
S&P 500. So the S&P 500 is going to give you a 10% return. If Bitcoin even doubles that, and I think it'll do more than double. I think
Yeah.
that Bitcoin is going to do way more than double. Maybe at some point they'll um maybe at some point they'll converge a little bit because the S&P 500, every company is going to be a Bitcoin treasury company,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
the only reason. Otherwise, the S&P 500 would be dying, right? But if they do converge at some point, then of course you're going to do well by holding the S&P 500. But I would personally buy Bitcoin before the S&P 500 is holding Bitcoin,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If you buy it before that's one of the things that people don't understand, right? So let's say you have Amazon. Jeff Bezos got his shares basically for free,
Yep.
and now he's dumping them on you for what, $200 a share? Nvidia's early investors probably got their shares for pennies, and they're dumping them on you for $220 a share at like
Mm.
40, 50, 100 times earnings. Tesla, same thing. They're Elon Musk. I mean, I don't think he's selling his shares, and that's not the point. I don't even think these people are selling their shares. But the point here is that you want to be in before Wall Street.
Hmm.
You want to be owning these assets before Wall Street, because once Wall Street starts packaging them up and they start selling them as something else, the price is going to explode, right? Because they're not going to sell the underlying. They're going to keep the underlying and they're going to sell you
Yes.
some bullshit
ETF.
IOU on top of it. And
Yeah.
then the underlying is never going to move.
Yeah.
And that'll just become the foundation of the financial system. So you want to own it before all of that happens, before Wall Street starts selling you these assets and they're backed by Bitcoin. Like MicroStrategy is doing that already, and it's pumped the price of Bitcoin up massively. It's gone up like so I think MicroStrategy started buying Bitcoin at like 10K. Now it's
Wow.
125K, right? And
Yeah.
they can keep pumping it up because what they can do is they can keep getting capital from other markets and bringing it into Bitcoin, and they hold the Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and you'll never get that Bitcoin. They hold the 640,000 Bitcoin, you'll never get it, right? So do it before that happens, before Wall Street figures it out. If you can put 5 grand a month into Bitcoin, oh man, you're gonna be doing so well.
Yeah. And that's not like in Bitcoin terms right there, the column C, Bitcoin balance. Like this is the going back to the question before, it was like, well, how much Bitcoin do you actually need? Because like here you're seeing in 20 by 2035, just 2.5 Bitcoin, which again sounds like a lot. In today's price, that's obviously 250 grand basically, but it's like that could be worth in the next 10 years 2 million. So it's like if you don't see this as an opportunity right now, which I think you and I obviously clearly see it, and that's why I want to continue educating my audience about this, is because there is an opportunity right now before Wall Street, before all these big companies start pouring money in, which they already are, by the way. It
Yeah.
already is a race to get as much Bitcoin as possible. And there's companies, like you said, like Strategy, who have 600,000 plus Bitcoin because they've seen this ahead of everybody else. And there won't be enough full Bitcoin for someone to buy in the next couple years. But like you said at the very beginning, there is what is called Satoshis. And for those of you who don't know, a Satoshi is just a decimal point of one Bitcoin. And so if you can still stack Satoshis now to get to a one Bitcoin eventually or a two Bitcoin eventually. But you know what's crazy, Rajat? And what actually is the most scary part about this entire thing, as you're going through this math, and I'm seeing this as someone who's 31, right? As someone who's done decent in my career so far, I can only help but worry about the generation, for example, like my parents or like the people that are around my parents' age, the 60 plus year olds, right? Where they maybe weren't they didn't take the time to save money. Or maybe if they did take the time to save money, they don't have it saved in the better money like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad for these people the most because like their time is coming to an end. And like if they don't have assets like real estate or all these other things, or even Bitcoin in general, like it's going to be so much harder for them in the next, man, even in the next 3 to 5 years. Cause like the way technology is advancing that we're seeing is like if they don't have money and like a really pure form of money, like they don't have time. I'm just seeing like time being shrinked for them where they're not going to have retirement. Like for
Yeah.
example, my stepdad, for example, he has a good amount of money saved away into a 401k, for example, through his company, which he's been with for basically his entire life, right? Except that money is saved in basically fiat, right? It's a 401k that's in fiat. And I was telling him, and now he's doing it. I'm like, you need to put that money as quick as you can into Bitcoin as fast as possible. Because that Bitcoin in the next 3 to 5 years will be worth way more than your 401k will ever be. And even if you have to take a penalty on it, get it out now and pour it in like immediately. But
Yeah.
does it ever occur like, do you ever have conversations with people that book calls with you that are like in their almost retirement age and they're worried about this? Because I can't imagine, like, I'm 31 and I'm seeing this opportunity, and also what happens if you don't capitalize on it. But if you're someone who's recognizing this in your 50s, 60s, like, I can only imagine the worry you would have as well.
Oh, absolutely. Completely agree. I get those all the time. There's people always asking me, oh, I'm 55. I had a 72-year-old once who had a bunch of S&P 500, had a bunch of rental properties, and he was telling me, I don't want to own these things. It's a headache
Yeah.
because I need to constantly be watching the news to figure out what's going to happen to the
He's a
S&P
stock trader,
500.
basically. Yeah.
Right. And why would he want that? So I
Yeah.
told him I have a video that did really well. It's you only need Bitcoin and cash. That's all you need. You don't need S&P 500, you don't need stocks, you don't need real estate, you don't need any of that. All you need is the S&P 500 and cash because cash is the least volatile and then the least risky, I guess, in the short term.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the most risky in the short term. So you're getting the benefits of both, right? You're getting the liquidity of cash and you're getting the appreciation of Bitcoin. So if you have
Mm.
to, like in his case, what I told him was, and it may sound ridiculous to a lot of people, but what I told him was put 20% of your portfolio in cash, and that would have been like 4 or 5 years for him, and put the rest in Bitcoin. And he was so happy to do that because he knew that over the next 4 years, while Bitcoin is volatile, while it's fluctuating, it's going up, it's coming down, he will be able to pay his expenses no matter what because he
Yeah.
has cash. It's just sitting in a high yield savings account. And I think more recently, the same people would probably put that money into STRC from MicroStrategy. So what STRC is essentially a money market fund where you get a 10% return per month or per year, sorry, and it's paid out monthly. So you can
Yeah.
get 10% and it's guaranteed because MicroStrategy will peg the price of STRC. So this product that they're putting out, it's a preferred share. They'll peg it to 99 to $101. So you have the
Mm.
advantage of Bitcoin appreciation, where with your Bitcoin stack, you have the advantage of a 10% return for your savings on STRC, and then you can hold on to cash as well. So let's say in this case, maybe you want to hold um, 1 year of cash just in your checking account, 3 years of STRC,
Yeah.
and then the rest in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's probably the best way to go for an older person, right? Maybe they don't want to deal with the volatility of Bitcoin. But then there are also people. I spoke to this one guy who was I think he was like 76 or 74 or something like that. He was in his mid 70s. He had 100 Bitcoin,
Wow.
right? And he did that based on his own knowledge. He just listened to podcasts and he put in the time and he bought it. I think at the time it was worth like $6.1 million. This was a while back. He bought it when it was like 10 grand each. He already
Wow.
had savings, so he sold some of his properties, or I don't know the exact details of what he sold, but he sold some of his assets and he bought the Bitcoin, which was a really great decision for somebody his age. How do you make a decision like that unless you're completely there, right? You
Yeah.
need to he was a really smart guy. Even had his at his age, he sounded perfectly fine. He was his speech was great. He was living in a nice house. His family was living with him. Everybody was together, and he
Yeah.
just that's the thing, right? There's a spectrum to this. Some people have no money and they
Yeah.
want to buy Bitcoin, but then there are other people who have a lot of money and they need to they need to buy Bitcoin to protect themselves, while the people who have no money need Bitcoin to not go broke and not be used for the rest of their lives as just this tax, like almost like cattle, right? We're basically just being used to generate more and more cash flow, just like cows are used to create more milk.
Yeah. That's so crazy because that's the whole thing I kept thinking about. I was like, when you were talking about how people, like we were talking about how people don't realize the problem and the system they're trapped in. All I could picture was they're like a lab rat being
Yeah,
tested on, but on this hamster wheel, and they're just drinking from the fluid that the test, the scientists are giving them as a science experiment, but they can't escape, and they're so used to it because it's
Yeah.
comfortable. They don't know anything else. But there's this other hamster wheel, for example, that's maybe in a different room. It's pretty risky to go to it, but it's like the opportunity means you can be free. But they're so
Yeah.
used to getting fed, they're so used to getting pampered, they're so used to getting told what's right and what's wrong. They don't ever take the time to actually question what they don't know, and they're stuck on the hamster wheel forever. It's such a funny analogy that you said that, because yeah, man, I think it's so funny. I'm so bullish on humanity, and it's crazy because as AI continues to make everything else abundant, right? The reality is what you said earlier is what I always tell people now. It's like, just because you're rich doesn't mean you're wealthy. There's a difference, right? Like
Yeah.
rich could mean you have a lot of money, but you have no time.
Yeah.
Wealthy people have time. So it's about storing your time in something that gives you more freedom of your time in the future, so you don't have to work if you don't want to. The goal, and I think you agree with this, is like, we're not saying we don't ever want to work. Like, of course, we want to work on things that we
Absolutely.
want to work on, though. We don't
Yeah.
want to work because we have to work, because we're trapped on that hamster wheel in this broken system. We want to
Yeah.
be able to work on things that we're passionate about, that we love. Like, for example, your YouTube videos, my YouTube channel, creating content, educating people. Like, I love doing it. And this is like a dream job for me and for you. But
Yeah.
most people don't have that luxury, because most people don't have their money tied up in a far superior asset. So I guess one of the last questions I have for you, I was at Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong for Bitcoin Asia. And it was the first Bitcoin conference I ever went to. I know you're speaking at the upcoming one in Canada, which is going to be super amazing. I hope to catch the replay of that. And if you're in Canada watching this and you're a follower of mine, go to Bitcoin Canada, meet Rajat in person, and like talk to him and continue going down the rabbit hole. But I was there at that conference, and I was interviewing a few people, and I was saying, who are you? What do you do? Do you? And then one of the questions I was asking them was, do you believe in using Bitcoin as money, or do you believe in just stacking and holding and never touching it? And the the difference of people's opinions and answers was so wide. You had I think the true Bitcoiners, which is like, Bitcoin is money, therefore it should be used as money, right? But then I actually talked to someone who actually worked for Strategy, and he was actually hesitant to be on camera. He's like, I don't know if I should be on camera. I convinced him. He said yes. And he actually said, he's like, my friend, why would you spend the world's first digitally scarce finite asset? That was
Yeah.
his answer. So my question to you is, knowing where Bitcoin's going and knowing the potential of what it's going to be worth, do you believe Bitcoin should be used as money right now, at this current stage, or do you believe we should just continue accumulating and stacking it as much as possible?
I think at this point, because okay, so let's go back to what I was saying about MicroStrategy, right? Borrowing against your Bitcoin. That changed my mind. And what you said is so funny because the guy works at MicroStrategy, and MicroStrategy changed my mind in the past. So the way that I see it, if I sell my Bitcoin to buy something, or if I sell it for fiat and I buy it, how do I know that that Bitcoin's not going to MicroStrategy? I don't want
Mm,
that to happen. Why would I want to give them more of my Bitcoin? They already have 3%, right?
yeah,
So until the world is accepting of Bitcoin and they want Bitcoin, I don't think it's worth spending it. Why would I want to sell it for fiat and then give that fiat to someone? I would rather borrow against the Bitcoin and never have to sell it because it's the same amount of money, right? I'm still
yeah,
giving the person value who, if let's say, for example, if I need to pay you and you don't want Bitcoin,
yeah,
I'm still giving you fiat. I'm giving you what you want, but I'm keeping my asset at the same time. So why would I sell my asset? So in the time where the world is adopting Bitcoin and figuring it out as a store of value,
yeah.
I think it doesn't make any sense to spend it. Unless the person that you want to work with actually wants to be paid in Bitcoin. Like let's
Yeah,
say for you, for example, let's say we work together and and and, and you want Bitcoin.
yeah,
I'm glad to give you Bitcoin. I'm happy to give
yeah,
you Bitcoin. I want to give you Bitcoin, right? And that's because I know that you're going to keep it.
yep,
I want to pay you. I want to give you value for value. And I'm
yeah,
happy that the value that I gave you is appreciating over time because the value that you gave me is appreciating over time. And to me, it's
yes,
so valuable. So actually, I convinced I get my beard done by a barber, and I convinced him to start taking Bitcoin. And
yes,
he started taking it. He was hesitant at first, And then I told him about how this thing is better than Fiat, how Fiat is used basically like a chain to keep us stuck in our current financial system or for our kind of financial situation. And in the time that he's been accepting Bitcoin from me, it's appreciated 10%. So he's seeing that he cut my hair a while ago and he's still making money from that.
Yeah.
To me that's wild, but most people don't think of it that way. I think
Yeah.
that there's this really great paper by Vijay Boyapati. Have you read it? It's
No,
called
I actually
The
haven't.
Bullish Case for Bitcoin.
Oh,
Really
wow.
great. Really great paper. So he goes through a bunch of different things and he talks about how I think in the Bitcoin standard, Saifedean talks about this as well. I don't remember, but he in that paper he talks about how Bitcoin is going from stage to stage. So the stages are basically starts off as a collectible, a
Mm-hmm.
form of money, goes from being a collectible to being a store of value to being a medium of exchange and unit of account.
Mm.
And that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. We're going through the biggest change in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
It took so long to go from
Yeah.
gold to pieces of paper. So how
Yeah.
do you expect people to go from pieces of paper and credit cards to Bitcoin overnight? You
Yeah.
can't hold Bitcoin. How do you expect people to go from real estate to Bitcoin, where they know that this is the utility of this real estate and this is the value of it, and it'll always be there? How do you expect them to go from real estate to Bitcoin overnight? They won't. That's not going to happen. It's going to take time. It's going to happen in cycles. It's going to happen over time. And once that happens, once people do actually want Bitcoin, I'll gladly pay them in Bitcoin. But before that, why would I give away my Bitcoin? Exactly like what you said there. Why would you spend the scarcest digital asset in the world?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? There's no point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny too because I've paid friends of mine for services in Bitcoin because I know that they were also Bitcoiners and they wanted it and there was also it was so funny because one of my friends I just had my mastermind in Medellin, Colombia actually. My friend Arlen, who's a DJ and has his own coaching program, I flew him out for that. I paid him for his service to DJ the entire event and I tried wiring him the money, but his information on the wire details apparently wasn't correct or exactly how it needed to be. And the wire got rejected twice. He didn't get the money within 15 days of like us trying
Wow.
to figure it out. I got charged $110 in fees trying to send him the money. And then I said, I was like, dude, let me just pay you in Bitcoin. He was like, I prefer that, honestly. Sent him in
Oh,
Bitcoin, got to him within an hour, and I got charged only like 16 cents in fees on a 5K
wow.
send on Bitcoin. 16 cents in fees instantly in an hour, $110, 15 days, he still didn't get the money. So like
Wow.
people haven't woken up to that yet because they haven't used Bitcoin as money. But like you said, I think it's going to take, I don't know, man. I was going to ask you the same thing, but I think it's going to be like maybe 10, 20. I don't know how soon it'll be, but I think maybe in the next 10, 20 years, hopefully we'll get closer to that because of the speed of
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, I think by that point, we'll definitely be using it as a medium of exchange, like you said. But it still seems like we're still in the store of value stage. But yeah, it's
Yeah, we're gonna be in the store of value stage for a while
yeah. How long
because
do you
there's
think?
so I mean, if you think about it, Bitcoin is like 0.2%, 0.3% of total global assets.
Wow.
It needs to capture all of that.
Wow.
I think that everything needs to fit into Bitcoin. So what I mean by that is today, Nvidia is worth, actually, let me bring up a screen here. Nvidia is worth like 20 million or 40 million Bitcoin or something like that. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
isn't it twice the size of Bitcoin's market cap?
It is. It's more than twice. So let me show
Wow.
you. Oh, no, no, sorry, it's less than twice because Bitcoin went up too. So Nvidia is worth $4.697 trillion dollars.
Hmm.
Microsoft is worth $3.862 trillion dollars. Apple is worth 3.7. Alphabet's worth 2.916. Silver is worth $2.6 trillion dollars. And Bitcoin is
Hmm.
in total worth 100, it's worth $2.4 trillion dollars,
Hmm.
right? So all of these things, the way that I see it, everything, including gold, including silver, including Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, everything has to fit into 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And what is that going to look like? I think all of this has to be I think everything has to be repriced. There's also another chart by this guy Jesse Myers. This he made this here. It was used by a lot of other people. He did a really great job making it. He
Oh
updates
yeah,
it
I've used this before
regularly.
for sure. Yeah.
Sorry.
I've used this before as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. So he updates this regularly. Bitcoin is 2% to 0.2% of global asset value. All of this has to move into it. Like bonds, for example, it's garbage, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to own bonds?
And Max Kaiser always talks about that.
Right. So what Saylor is doing is he's moving the value of bonds into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Everything has to fit into Bitcoin. So there's another one, there's another graphic from Jan 3. Really great. Oh yeah, here, this is it. This is it. So what this shows you is the amount of available money in the system today and the savings that we have today versus the amount of Bitcoin. So
Hmm.
the orange at the bottom here is the amount of Bitcoin that people already own, and the black part right there, that little black triangle, is the amount of
Hmm.
Bitcoin that isn't owned by people. So what people who have money in the current system will have to do is they're either going to have to convince people who own Bitcoin today to sell their Bitcoin for whatever they're selling, or they're going to have to buy the newly created Bitcoin. And this is because Bitcoin is a finite asset, and the people look as Bitcoin's price goes up, you're gonna have to sell less and less of it to sustain your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So what that means is, let's say at some point you're gonna have to only sell 10% of what you own to live your life for the rest of however long you live.
Hmm.
And that means that you have 90% of your Bitcoin just sitting there and you don't have to sell it. There are people who
Wow.
have thousands of Bitcoin. They're never gonna have to sell their Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
this available capital is fighting for probably maybe 20-30% of the supply,
Huh.
right? And that what that's going to do is it's going to lead to everything being repriced.
Yeah.
Today, bonds are worth $318 trillion dollars, real estate's worth $370 trillion dollars. In terms of dollars, these will keep going up, but Bitcoin will keep taking a bigger and bigger percentage of the total. So today, uh, today Bitcoin is about 0.24%, I guess, if it's a $1 quadrillion in total assets. At
Hmm.
some point, this will be zero point 0.4, then it'll be 0.6, then it'll be 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, 5, 6.
And at
And then,
some point during that transition, then it'll be more of the medium of exchange, you're saying, basically.
yeah, so what'll have to
Now,
happen is more people will
because
have to
you were
own it.
saying, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say more people will have to own it in order for it to
Yeah,
be a medium of exchange,
exactly. Yeah,
and more people will
100%.
have to want it, right?
Yeah.
Today,
Yep.
if you think about it, the people around you, if you just talk to somebody random on the street, how many
Yeah.
of them would actually want Bitcoin?
No, yeah, not like maybe one out of 100, maybe.
Yeah, maybe if even that, right? I
Yeah.
would say it's even less than that. It's probably like 1 out of 10,000,
Yeah, exactly,
right?
probably.
Most people don't understand it. Most people don't see what it is, and if let's say 2-3% of the world owning Bitcoin makes it 0.2% of the global asset value, what would the value be when 10% of people want to own Bitcoin, 20%,
Yeah.
30%? And over time, it'll just keep growing because as Bitcoin takes up more of the total asset value in the world,
Yeah.
people will want it more. Because
Yep.
as it goes up those ranks that I showed you, this chart, as it goes from 7 to 6 to 5 to 4, 3, 2, as this is coming soon. I think it's going
Yeah.
to be in second place within the next. I would, if I'm being bullish, I would say it'll happen within the next year. But if I'm being bearish and if I'm just going based on previous cycles, I think it could happen over the next. I mean, I think it's almost guaranteed to happen within the next 10 years,
Yeah.
right? So if Bitcoin is the second most valuable asset in the world and it's on gold's heels, do you not think more people will want Bitcoin? Right? At that point,
Yeah.
people will be asking for it. They'll be selling their houses for it. They'll be selling
Yeah.
whatever they can
Yeah.
for it, right? They'll be
Exactly.
selling their Nvidia shares for it.
Yeah.
And at that point, how much Bitcoin are you going to need to give away to buy a house?
Yep.
Today,
Yeah.
you have to pay 4 or 5 Bitcoin for a house. At some point, you're going to be paying zero point 0.1 Bitcoin for a house. So hold on to it until that point
Yeah.
and let it grow. And there's another phrase there's another term that I think describes Bitcoin very well. It's Veblen good. So what a Veblen good is essentially is as the price goes up, more people want it. As the price goes down, fewer people want it. And what that means is
Mm.
as Bitcoin's price is going up, people have emotions where they're like, oh, I want to buy this thing. I want to get more
Yep.
of it. I want to have as much of it as possible. But when the price is coming down, people say, oh, I don't want it. I don't want to own it. It's going to go to zero, right? So over time, you're going to see that Bitcoin's price only goes up. It only
Yeah.
goes up and to the right. And the chart only goes up and to the right. And that'll just lead to more and more adoption over time.
Yeah. Rajat, man, we gave them a full masterclass. We educated them on the problem they're probably not aware of. We told them the solution and how we obviously believe the solution with math. We've proved it with logic, as well as we also told them how to get more Bitcoin by adding more value to the marketplace and different variety of ways they can do it, like your example, my example, obviously. And we've showed them the price of everything falls in comparison to Bitcoin and what they can do now to actually start stacking Bitcoin and not even have one, but just a few Satoshis to start getting off zero Bitcoin. And then finally, how Bitcoin becomes a medium of exchange, actually is used as money over the next 10, 20, however many years, and takes market share. Man, this was a full masterclass. And I would encourage everybody who's watching this. Again, I've learned so much about Bitcoin from Rajat's YouTube channel. Go to subscribe to him immediately on YouTube and actually make sure he's doing a live webinar next week. I actually helped him with it because I believe in what he does so much because it helped me. And that's obviously why I teach you guys about Bitcoin. Register for it. I think it's next Tuesday at 10 a.m. EST, Rajat.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. It's literally Rajat going way more in depth, teaching you the buy, borrow, die strategy step by step. You're going to want to go. It's free. Again, he's obviously someone that I really respect deeply, and I helped him with the webinar as well. I have no incentive for anything in this. I just want to help more people get Bitcoin as possible, orange pilled as possible. So go subscribe to him, register for the webinar, and dude, we got to do this again sometime. This was super fun.
Absolutely. We're going to go live one of these days, and I feel like that's going to be awesome. People can ask their questions in the chat, and they can give us their opinions on things. I feel like that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, a live podcast will be cool. Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this. And go ahead and go to subscribe to Rajat's channel. And Rajat, I'll see you in the next one, man.
Yes, you as well, Brian.